My dear fellow Kenyans, my name is Jeremiah Nyaga. I am a Kenyan citizen, 44 years of age, and I am a registered voter in Lang'ata constituency, Nairobi County. I was educated both here in Kenya and at St. Mary's School in Nairobi, and in the United Kingdom at Cambridge University, from where I hold a master's degree in social and political science. For the past 20 years, I have worked in the advertising and media industries here in Kenya and across Africa. I have built a successful career working with some of our leading brands, and I am responsible for producing many of Kenya's most popular campaigns, including Niko na Safaricom, amongst many others. I have been in my life in Kenya a businessman, a consultant, an employee, an employer, and a chicken farmer. I have fathered 3 amazing sons and 1 very beautiful and brilliant daughter. I am equally blessed with a beautiful, loving, supportive, prayerful, and perceptive First Lady. I am the firstborn son to the late Honorable Joseph Nyaga and grandson to the late Honorable Jeremiah Nyaga, after whom I am named. I am a proud son of the Ambere community, a proud son of Nairobi City, a proud son of Kenya, and a proud son of Africa. Above all, I am a child of God, and in God's plan, I trust fully and surrender fully to. My dear fellow Kenyans, I look forward to meeting and talking with as many of you as possible in the weeks and months to come. I look forward to hearing your ideas as to how to move this country forward, and to sharing my ideas regarding the same with you. I pray for a peaceful election and a harmonious transition of power. And I call upon all politicians, especially presidential candidates, to immediately desist from the politics of insults, abuse, accusations, false promises, lies, and hate. Yet more anger is the last thing that we need in Kenya today. We all need to calm down and reduce our temperatures. Kenya cannot be allowed to burn because big men and big women are too busy fighting over whose turn next it is to eat. I pray that Kenyans vote wisely and that the voice of the people, which is the voice of God, is heard with the greatest clarity in this country on the 9th of August 2022. God bless Kenya na Mungu abariki Afrika. Asante sana. My dear fellow Kenyans, I am running for the office of President of our Republic so that I can begin the process of radically and fundamentally changing the colonial political and economic system that still runs this country nearly 60 years after our independence. Should you elect me as your next president, I shall focus upon the following 5 key priority areas in order to execute my mandate for real and fundamental change in Kenya. Firstly, I shall completely decriminalize, and I want to repeat that word. I shall completely decriminalize our government by ensuring that every single government officer and government institution is subject to and subservient to the laws of this land. Nobody in my government, myself included, shall be above the laws of Kenya. Any member of my government who is found to have broken the law shall face the full force of the law without any protection from me. I have zero personal interest in amassing a great fortune, and any member of my government who tries to do so using his or her position shall be dealt with accordingly. My government shall follow Maraga's prescription to the letter. Our greatness as a people shall come from fidelity to our constitution, adherence to the rule of law, and respect above all to God. Secondly, should you elect me as your next president, I shall immediately begin the process of cleaning up our public finances. For us to have arrived at a place where we are spending more each year on debt repayments than all other expenditure combined speaks to a breathtaking level of economic incompetence. For us to be in a place where almost 70% of our tax revenue is earmarked for debt repayment speaks to a level of negligence that is unprecedented in our history. I have no doubt that should you elect me as your next president, I shall spend my first year in office on my knees on behalf of the people of Kenya, in Washington, in Beijing, in London, in Brussels, and wherever it is that I need to be, so that we can reduce the debt burden upon our country. I shall do this as a matter of extreme urgency, so that we can free up as much money as possible for what I consider to be our key development priorities, which shall focus upon significantly improving the packages of frontline government officers, including police, teachers, and nurses, significantly increasing investment in small-scale agricultural productivity, and significantly increasing investment in our digital and clean energy infrastructures. Further, I shall work closely with Parliament to put in place much tougher laws so as to ensure that we never again find ourselves in such a distressed financial state. Kenyans are by and large very careful with our money, and we expect and demand that our government behaves in a similar manner. We should only ever borrow to fund genuinely productive development projects and initiatives. If at the end of 5 years I have succeeded in bringing our public finances back under control, then I shall consider my first term to have been a success. I shall work night and day, I assure all Kenyans, towards this goal. Thirdly, should you elect me as your next president, I shall significantly broaden and deepen the scope of devolution in this country. I believe that devolution has been our only true success story of the last 10 years, and we need to do everything in our power to build upon this success. I believe that we need to continue to transfer more government functions and services to our counties, and as such, we must continue to seek to better fund them and enable them to better fund themselves, both individually and collectively. I believe that the growth and development of our counties is our bottom-up development strategy in this country. And therefore, I conclude that it is only by working ever more closely with our counties that we shall truly deliver an improved standard of living to the vast majority of our people. I envision our national government to be one that is focused upon the core affairs of state. And I believe that our county governments here in Kenya should serve as a shining example to the rest of Africa as to how to best empower local communities to take full control of their own affairs. I do not believe that 35% is a sufficient allocation to our counties, and I commit to have significantly increased it within the confines of our debt constraints by the end of my 5 years in office. Fourthly, should you elect me as your next president, I shall immediately institute a massive, wide-ranging and comprehensive program of deregulation. It is a sad but undeniable fact that the single biggest barrier to doing business in Kenya is the government of Kenya itself. Whatever your business, whether you are selling smoky or manufacturing steel products, at every turn you will be met by a law, a license, or a regulation that is designed not to help or to protect your business, but rather to force you to remove money to overcome the barrier that you have been presented with. It should go without saying that the economic development of this country can and will only be driven by the private sector, both formal and informal. It is individual Kenyan businessmen and businesswomen working daily to build their businesses and futures who will build the future prosperity of this country. It is therefore incumbent upon our government to make it as easy as possible for Kenyan business people to do business. As we all know, and as we can all see, our present situation in Kenya is quite the opposite. We cannot move forward when everywhere we turn, we find ourselves yet again blocked by the very government whose job it is supposed to be to remove those blockages from our way. We have far too many laws and regulations in this country that are primarily designed to keep cartels in power. I shall be the greatest enemy of Kenyan cartels in our history. I declare this without fear in front of Kenyans, and in front of God above. I shall be utterly ruthless in my quest to level the playing field for all Kenyans. Every Kenyan deserves an equal opportunity to succeed. Any rule, law, or regulation that stands in the way of this must be removed. We must now unleash our private sector, both formal and informal, across every sector of our economy. Until we do this, my dear fellow Kenyans, please do not cheat yourselves that anything meaningful is going to change in this country. To do business is our right. It is not a gift from our government. All that is required for this country to take off economically is for our government to get out of the way of the people. And that is what my government will do. My dear fellow Kenyans, our colonial system fundamentally oppresses us by oppressing our voice every 5 years at our general elections. Our colonial system has zero interest in allowing us to put in place the leaders whom we wish to lead us. Our colonial system is only interested in putting in place leaders who owe their positions to the system itself. From morning to night, I hear Kenyans cry about corruption. I consider these cries to be misguided. Corruption in our public affairs is a symptom. It is not the disease. The disease, my dear fellow Kenyans, is the stealing of elections themselves at every level. It is worth remembering that to steal an election is to steal a country. Once I have stolen the country, what is it to me to steal the country's money? The stealing of elections in this country begins way before elections themselves. Central to this process, as our former colonial masters taught us so well, is the age-old strategy of divide and rule. Our politics has been reduced to a football match, and every Kenyan is expected to pick a side based upon which particular team your community is supposed to be supporting. This is the game that was played with us as Kenyans in 2007. This is the game that was played with us in 2013. This is the game that was played with us in 2017. And this is the game that is being played with us again in the run-up to the next general election. This is not a game that can be allowed to continue, and I believe that our colonial system is going to be greatly shocked at the next election when Kenyans declare very, very loudly, game over. The truth is that it is the very concept that some communities should be in and others out of power that lies at the heart of all our political problems in Kenya today. Never, ever, ever should there be a government in Kenya in which any Kenyan community does not feel membership and full ownership of. All attempts to build competing tribal coalitions should be rejected by Kenyans outright. Every single Kenyan wants the same thing for this country. Every single Kenyan wants to live in a land of peace and of great plenty. Any Kenyan who thinks that this can be achieved in any way other than by working together as one people is completely delusional. It is not going to happen. I repeat, the game that has been played with us is over, whether the system and its masters like it or not. There is no system in the history of the world that is more powerful than the people themselves. And anyone who thinks that the Kenyan people have forgotten their true power will very soon be taught otherwise. The people of Kenya are awake, they are aware, and they are angry. Change is coming in this country and nothing will stop it. The system that runs this country needs to understand that you cannot fight the times any more than you can fight time itself. My dear fellow Kenyans, despite liberating ourselves from colonial rule and subsequently liberating ourselves from the colonial state, we nonetheless remain subjects still to a colonial system that continues to hold sway both here in Kenya and across the continent of Africa as a whole. Until we fully liberate ourselves from this colonial system, our situation will not change, and we shall essentially remain pende tusipende, still colonized. The colonial system which we operate in this country is a system that is intentionally designed to oppress us as a people so as to allow for the maximum extraction of wealth from us. Colonialism was a commercial enterprise designed to transfer as much wealth as possible, as quickly as possible, from the continent of Africa to the global centers of capitalism. 60 years after our independence in Kenya, nothing has changed. We have a colonial operating system here in Kenya that considers its work to be keeping Kenyans in their place, which would be in powerlessness and in poverty, so as to make it as easy as possible for the masters of our system, who are now overwhelmingly Kenyans like you and I, to extract as much wealth and money as possible from us, and then to transfer that wealth offshore to London, to Dubai, to Mauritius, to Geneva, or to wherever it is that they consider to be a better investment for that money than right here at home. This is why, my dear fellow Kenyans, 60 years after our independence, we are nowhere near as rich as South Korea. We require now to completely replace our colonial operating system in Kenya and across Africa if we wish to have any hope of surviving this century as a free and proud people. If we do not, then it saddens me to have to assure you that we shall end this century once again fully colonized. There are many great powers on this planet who look with great envy at what it is that we have here in Africa, and they are coming to get what they want. This is the reality of Africa in the 21st century. if we do not now fully complete the process of decolonization that began with our first liberation, then we shall once again be colonized. Our future and our children's future is in our hands. The time has now come for us to take back control of our future here in Kenya. And the way that we shall do this is with the power of our votes at the next general election. Because it is only with the power of our votes that we shall overpower the power of our system. My dear fellow Kenyans, the time has come for the third liberation of Kenya. Our first liberation as Kenyans was from colonial rule. From the day that Kenya was created by an act of the British Parliament 102 years ago, our forefathers and mothers began the struggle to free themselves and us from the rule of the colonial empire. This struggle lasted 2 generations, and we shall forever be indebted to all those great Kenyans who dedicated and gave their lives to ensure that we were born in a land that rules itself. Their sacrifices serve as an example to us all and as a reminder of what it truly means to call oneself a Kenyan. Sadly, after our independence, it soon became apparent that a flag, an anthem, and a currency does not necessarily equate to freedom. Across Africa, our first generation of leaders, by and large, proceeded at great pace to amass as much wealth and as many weapons as possible so as to further entrench their positions of power. This is how we found ourselves here in Kenya. Within 10 short years of our independence, living in a de facto one-party state and in a country which had become, in the words of J.M. Kariuki, a country of 10 millionaires and 10 million beggars. Much as we had replaced colonial rule in our land with home rule, we found ourselves still slaves to a state that remained colonial in every way that mattered. Thus was born the second liberation struggle in Kenya's history. The struggle to dismantle the colonial state and to replace it with one that was truly responsive to the rights, needs, and aspirations of the Kenyan people as a whole. This struggle culminated in the promulgation of our new constitution in 2010, which I personally consider to be the greatest day in the history of our republic and the true birth date of our republic. Many of the leaders of the second liberation are still with us here today in Kenya. History shall record that they too were founding fathers and mothers of our republic. Their names shall never be forgotten, and God willing, their work shall never be undone. Our constitution is our most precious possession as a people. It is our duty as Kenyans to live it and breathe it in everything that we do. And it is our duty as Kenyans to resist completely any attempts to undermine it, to subvert it, or to unnecessarily change it. 12 years is far too short a time for us to pass judgment on the success of our constitution. We can revisit such discussions at the end of this century. My dear fellow Kenyans, it is my intent to submit myself to you as an independent candidate for the office of President at the upcoming general election. My reasons for doing so are as follows. Firstly, I do so because it is my democratic and constitutional right to do so. I urge as many Kenyans as possible to exercise this right at whichever level of elective office that you so wish. Kenya is a democracy, and our elections should be a celebration of the same. The more voices, ideas, and choices that we have, the better it shall be for all of us. Secondly, I am running for the office of President because I believe that it is my democratic duty to do so, given that I do not at present see a leading declared presidential candidate to whom I would be willing to give my vote. Thirdly, I am running for the office of President because I believe in my late father's and grandfather's vision of a united, peaceful, and prosperous Kenya. And I consider it to be my duty to honor his memory by seeking to complete his work, to which he dedicated his entire adult life. Fourthly, I am running for the office of President because I believe that the time has come in Kenya for an entirely new generation of leaders to take the reins of leadership in this country. I believe that our politics has fossilized sometime in the late 1990s, that it has become completely devoid of ideas, inspiration, and imagination, and that it has been reduced to nothing more than an endless stream of divisive insults, abuse, lies, accusations, and petty propaganda. I no longer believe that our politics and our political class in general remains fit for purpose in the year 2022. I know that the vast majority of Kenyans know this, and I know that they shall show this in overwhelming numbers at the upcoming general election. Finally, I am running for the office of President because I believe that the next president of Kenya must be able to prove the legal source of every single shilling of his or her wealth, and be able to believably promise all Kenyans that he or she and his or her family will not steal a single shilling of our money. I believe that this should be the irreducible minimum requirement for each and every candidate, for each and every elective office in our land. And I believe that Kenyans should demand nothing less. My dear fellow Kenyans, I am running for the office of President as an independent candidate because I know that the wave that is coming in this country at every level will be a massive wave of independence. I know that Kenyans no longer believe or trust in our major political parties, and I myself do not believe that any of these parties are anything more than marketing vehicles for their owners. I know that Kenyans are demanding leaders who are directly accountable and answerable to them, and I know that Kenyans will only get that at this present time from independent candidates. I urge every Kenyan to look very closely at the character of those seeking leadership positions and not at their party. Almost all our major political parties are profoundly undemocratic. They are completely devoid of ideas or meaningful agenda, and they exist only as machines to maximize the power, wealth, and influence of their owners. Not one of them is genuinely owned by the people of Kenya. The next election is the most important election that we have held in this country since 2002. The next election shall determine the future path of this country for the next 20 to 30 years. I urge you all, therefore, to cast your votes very, very wisely, and I urge you all, therefore, to cast your votes at this next election for independence. Finally, my dear fellow Kenyans, should you elect me as your next president, I shall do everything in my power, night and day, to accelerate the process of the integration of our economy and polity with those of our neighbors in the region and the continent of Africa as a whole. It is extremely clear to me that the process of decolonization here in Africa cannot be said to have been completed for as long as we continue to accept the existence of colonial era borders between the people of Africa. It is equally extremely clear to me that we cannot in any way hope to build a modern and vibrant economy here in Kenya unless we are building it as a constituent part of a vibrant and modern African economy. The truth is that there is no country in Africa that can achieve its full potential by itself. I therefore consider the objective of Pan-African political and economic federation and integration to be the paramount political objective of every African alive today. I believe that this process is already happening and that it is happening much faster than many people may think. I believe that Kenya must take the lead in driving this process, and I believe that Kenyans will be amongst the greatest beneficiaries of this process. I believe ultimately that one cannot truly call oneself a Kenyan until one has fully understood that every Kenyan is an African first, and therefore that every African is also a Kenyan. This, my dear fellow Africans, will be our true third and final liberation. Aluta continua victoria acerta. My dear fellow Kenyans, I am running for the office of president as an independent candidate because I know that the wave that is coming in this country at every level will be a massive wave of independence. I know that Kenyans no longer believe or trust in our major political parties, and I myself do not believe that any of these parties are anything more than marketing vehicles for their owners. I know that Kenyans are demanding leaders who are directly accountable and answerable to them, and I know that Kenyans will only get that at this present time from independent candidates. I urge every Kenyan to look very closely at the character of those seeking leadership positions and not at their party. Almost all our major political parties are profoundly undemocratic. They are completely devoid of ideas or meaningful agenda, and they exist only as machines to maximize the power, wealth, and influence of their owners. Not one of them is genuinely owned by the people of Kenya. The next election is the most important election that we have held in this country since 2002. The next election shall determine the future path of this country for the next 20 to 30 years. I urge you all, therefore, to cast your votes very, very wisely, and I urge you all, therefore, to cast your votes at this next election for independence.
And for us as Cornerstone leadership, we are also finding ways to ensure many people can get homes. Yes, and not just homes, but beautiful homes. That's why we look for beautiful places like this. I mean, look at this scenery,
the view, the beautiful view.
Look at the view. You can see more hills on that side.
Even the Kilimambogo is just next to us here.
Bogo on that side.
Yani,
look at the valley.
You mean
valley
if
here.
Somebody can invest here, anaweza kuwa neighbor ya Kilimambogo pale.
Ni kweli.
Kuna yani breeze iko poa sana hapa hivi.
Unaisikia.
Na pia hata tukikuja tu along the road tumepata kuna wanyama.
Umewaona?
So ni kumaanisha mtu akikaa hapa hivi hakuna haja ya kwenda sijui other game parks, reserves na kila kitu. Hebu tuende tukiongeanga tu Mr. Maloba. Hebu tuambie hapa hivi tuko hapa leo na mtu anataka kufika hadi hapa. Tumewambia ni 8 kilometers from the road.
Yes.
Barabara, how is the road?
No, the road is very good. Unaona, from Nairobi, you take Mombasa Road.
Yeah.
And the good thing with Mombasa Road, it's being dualed up to Machakos Junction and a bit past.
Yeah.
So this is part of the place where the road will be dual, meaning traffic will be easier. It will not, we will not have the congestion that we've been having. And then of course from the dual carriageway, you know, when you get just here at Mlolongo, at the river, you already have the new carriageway, the Nairobi Expressway. So that makes it very easy for you.